Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Stan.
Hello and greetings.
Another Dragons of Spring Dawning video. This one's going to encapsulate all of part 3 so that we end this book and we could then start on the next Dragonlance novel, which will be an exciting one. Trust me on that one. It's one of my favorites. That's coming up next. And it's arguably the best in the entirety of the franchise. And no, I'm not biased. This book in part 3 basically has the heroes advancing towards Naraka, only for them to arrive near the god's home, where Flint has a heart attack. They really shouldn't have brought him along. And Flint has a death scene.
It was rather touching. As much as Flint made his mistakes, had wrongful, strong opinions of Raceland, for those he cared a lot.
Yeah, and what do you think of Tanis, who flew into a rage, attempted to slay Barum?
It was impulsive, emotional.
From there, Tanis and his group arrive in Naraka and are quickly found by Kitiara's spies, amongst others. I'm just saying, Ariakas has his own spies. The trouble is that their reunion, Tanis tells Kitiara, Flint's dead. Kitiara just says, so, Flint is dead. Almost like it's a joke. She says it wryly. Like Sturm. Tanis could not help but add through clenched teeth. Kitiara glanced at him sharply. The fortunes of war, my dear. We are both soldiers, he and I. He understands. His spirit bears me no malice. Actually, I would argue, yes, he would. Because you were fighting for evil. Tanis shows that he didn't really understand Sturm. Arguably, Laurana actually understood Sturm better than Tanis or Kitiara. Later, when in this part, it's revealed better understood Sturm to a large extent. Because here, or at least on some level, she's come to an understanding of Sturm that Tanis and Kit are lacking. Well, I don't know if Kit's lacking it. She'll say anything as an excuse. Tanis thinks to himself, Sturm would understand. So Sturm would basically go, Kitiara's totally making sense right now. What? Here's the problem. Kitiara's fighting for Takesis. Sturm, what did he think of fighting for Takesis? Oh, you're scum. Better cut your head off. That's what you do with followers of Takesis. So to say, oh, he'd totally understand a soldier fighting for Takesis. No, that's the exact opposite of what Sturm is and what he believes in. What neither Kit nor Tanis understand is religious belief. And what I mean by that is Sturm's level of religious fervor. Because to Sturm, his religion was perhaps the only thing he had left. And on the other hand, given what Kitiara believes in, which is to say wholesale war crimes, Sturm would not understand. So this is a very illogical, very stupid moment on Tanis and Kit's part. Well, maybe not Kit. We get the ceremony of everyone presenting themselves before Ariakas. And during the ceremony, it's revealed Todd, one of the new dragon high lords, has been slain. He was apparently slain by Cronin Thistlenot, a Kender, which is just how I imagined he would go. Tanis, who's expected to kneel before Ariakas. Raceland ends up, of course, whispering to him in such a manner that no one else can hear, except for maybe Takesis. Raceland presses Tanis to try to slay Ariakas, and I'm actually going to complain a bit here. Raceland destroys the force field around Ariakas, and Tanis uses Wormslayer to slay Ariakas. Why not have Wormslayer be special? So far, we've not seen the sword exude all that much magic. The thing about Raceland being the one to tear down the force field, tear away the magic of Ariakas, is that while it's a great demonstration of power on Raceland's end, we don't get to see Ariakas in action. Why not have him fight Caramon, Tanis, Goldmoon if she was present, have him take them down, and then Raceland kind of pull through and, you get that final strike. But have a fight scene. The death of Ariakas is something that even when I was 13, I kind of found boring. Because it was just... But the thing is, it cements Raceland as the hero of the lance. So I don't mind that, but the problem is, come on, we don't get to see this guy in action. We don't get to see the character development in terms of combat skills. It would have been great had we seen that. Every other fantasy franchise does that. Heck, there's even Dragonlance stories that do that. But not this one. Is a darn shame. The only character who got progressively more powerful as the series progressed was Raceland. That aside, downstairs, Raceland takes down him, like the entire dragon army, which is thrown at him, and a huge chunk of the black robes, because Caramon said, you owed me, which caused Raceland to fly into a rage. Raceland ends up reviving Tass and Tika. Meanwhile, Tanis, having slain Ariakas, is basically going, yeah, okay, now that that's done, time to rescue Laurana. At which point, Laurana threatens to slay him for rescue. So Laurana flees from Tanis And Tanis races off after her, puts himself between her and Lord Soth and Kit lets them go because Kit's a moron now too, who takes up the attitude, every time he looks at her, he'll think of me. Plot twist. He never does. This revenge she thinks of, which is just her lying to herself. Really, she couldn't bring herself to slay Tanis, so she lets him go. But she says, well, you see, every time he looks at Lorana, he'll think of me. That's not what happens. Arguably, the Kitiara thing fades more and more with every memory that Tanis makes, arguably. So, really, she doesn't accomplish anything with this. But it's not as though, at this point, slaying Tanis or Lorana would have accomplished anything. I'm serious. If she had just ordered Lord Soth to do them in, it would not amount to anything. It might cost her Lord Soth, considering if Paladin actually answers the prayer of Tanis, Soth is chucked into the abyss. Actually, it might do the world of Krynn some good, and turn Tanis and Lorana into martyrs and a source of inspiration, just as Sturm became one. On the other hand, I really don't want Lorana and Tanis to be removed from the board, so to speak, as I really like them. Once outside, Raistlin decides to summon forth Cyan Bloodbane with his dragon orb. Caramon then volunteers to go with him, at which point Raistlin remarks, astonished, I think you actually would do it. But no, we're both men now. It's time we start living separately. You're your own man, Caramon. Caramon will, in the end of this trilogy, agree to go back to Solus to help rebuild it, against his will. He doesn't want to do that. He would actually rather go follow Raistlin. Even Paladin kind of comments on it. But Paladin even expresses a little relief that he doesn't have to slay Raistlin, as he considers Raistlin his friend. Paladin ends up explaining to them all that the balance is restored and that that's what needed to be done, because as it is, the world was not in good shape before. And now that it is, they could begin to rebuild. At which point, Lorana wonders, why not just cast all the forces of darkness forever? And you have Paladin. And he proceeds to scold her and tell her, yeah, you know who else fought like that? The King Priest of Ishtar. By your standards, he was a good person. Although the King Priest, as you see if you ever read any of the material connected to him, was a psychopath. Paladin leaves, though not without one touching moment of Tass. I really like the moment between him and Tass where he says, Fizban could be his name amongst a Kender, which is a beautiful moment. I really love that moment. I really do love the renewal of the love of Tanis and Lorana. Despite my complaining about their behavior, such as the Sturm moment, the Tanis Lorana renewing their vows is pretty beautiful. And the best moment is Raistlin's arrival in Palanthas, the master of the past and present, just as he has always been foretold to be.
It's rather bittersweet.
To an extent, it lays the groundwork for the next trilogy, which is the Legends trilogy, The Time, War, and Test of the Twins, as Caramon will step into the role of semi-main character, and so will Raistlin. At long last, we'll get to see more of that relationship, which is a great one when we get to that one. A part of me thinks it might be appropriate to, when we get to the Time of the Twins, to read alongside it Soulforge, so that you're reading the childhood of Raistlin and the later life of him. And this way, we get to trace his steps in both directions, towards the future and towards the past. As Soulforge really helps to better understand where Raistlin's coming from. On the other hand, Time of the Twins and War of the Twins and Test of the Twins are really good. But we've got a different Dragonlance book to read, so stay tuned for that.
It was really great, although there were moments where you really have to question the direction, characterization of particular characters.
Lorana.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that some of these characters that Waithen Hickman liked, such as Tika and Lorana, how they were held back by the character's own irrationality.
Yeah, it's a funny thing that the two on the first go-around weren't able to write female characters as well as they later could. And arguably, Crysania's better written than any of their classic female characters. Crysania's a great character. Same with some of those in Soulforge. Lunatar is really well written. The trouble is they can't quite figure out Tika and Lorana.
And I would have liked to see more of Gilthana.
Yeah, same. Gilthanas, you're not going to see much more of him, except in Gilthanas' Odyssey and the Odd Adventure module that, to be quite honest, he's not well liked by the writers. But the main hero of the Lance is Raceland. So let's rate this book.
3 1/4.
I'm going to say 2 1/4.
This is my first time through this book, and I really enjoyed it. But some of the characters' irrational behavior...
But it's still great, in your opinion.
Yes.
How would you rate the entire trilogy?
The entire trilogy. There's a lot to factor in.
I'm going to say a 2.3 for the whole trilogy. Winter Night brings it really high up. There's a good chunk of Autumn Twilight. There's a good chunk of Spring Dawning. But there are the little moments that screw it up and whatnot.
I'm going to say 2.5, primarily because as much as Winter Night is preparing for a big event, because of certain decisions in Spring Dawning, it brings it down.
Yeah, although Spring Dawning is still a really, really good book.
Aspects of the build-up.
It's one of those must-read fantasy stories.
Indeed.
But the next book's going to be even greater. Stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll have chapter 1 through 2 of that book prepped, or maybe just chapter 1 or something prepped for you guys next time. So don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe as though you were the gods chucking meteors at Krynn.